Hi, wee friends. It's Miss Chris again. Really, really excited to share our time together each week. I hope you're all having a wonderful summer, and I hope that you're getting a lot of nice outside time. Now's the time to be out when it's nice and warm. And I hope that we are ready to have a really, really good lesson and story today during wee time. Before we start, I would like to remind us to find our space, find a place where you are cozy and comfortable, where it is calm and quiet, and you have your listening ears on, and we are ready to start our time together. If we were in our normal space, I'll remind us that we are in our growing season in ordinary time. So we would have our green cloth out. We would have somebody light our candle to make sure that it is a symbol of Christ's light in our lives. We would have our Bible ready to listen to an amazing story that teaches us every day. And we will start by finding the way we would like to pray today. I'm going to use my hands like this today. I'm going to ask that you bow your heads and repeat after me. Loving God, we are gathered to hear the stories of the Bible. Teach us to walk in Jesus' way. Amen. I have a question for you. Have you ever felt like there are just too many rules? I could tell you now, because of the coronavirus, there's a lot of extra rules that we have to think about, right? Stay away from people 6 feet or longer. Make sure that you're wearing a mask. Wash your hands more than you ever thought you had to in your whole life. Hand sanitize everything. Make sure that everything is distanced and you are staying clean and safe. Although these are very important rules, it can feel like a lot. Have you ever thought of another time where all of these rules, whether it be something at school or learning a new sport or learning anything new that comes with a lot of rules, do you ever feel like it's too much? It's okay to let it be too much. Sometimes it is. Sometimes the rules are put in place for us to learn and to grow. Sometimes it can feel like it's a lot from time to time. But we're going to learn a little bit about rules and how they were used in the time of Jesus. And there's a really cool story that we are going to talk about today about rules that maybe can shed some light on some things that maybe we're thinking about from time to time. So I would like us to take a look at this picture. I want you to look at what these two gentlemen are doing. I see really big baskets on their backs. I'm going to put up a little closer. And I want you to think, what are they carrying in these baskets? Sometimes they call them like unloads on their back. Does it look like it's light? Does it look like it's heavy? Does it look like it's easy to carry all of that? Because by the look of this picture, it looks like they're going uphill. Have you ever had to carry something like that? I really like this photo because it looks a lot like it could be anywhere on a path, in a park. But then when I look closer, I'm like, wow, this does look a little bit different than things that I'm used to. I don't think I've ever seen anybody with a basket like that. And I've never seen anyone in my neighborhood or community carry things on their back like that. Normally I would see like a backpack or some type of thing, a carrier of some sort, but this is something new to me. I thought this was neat that it was just a little bit different than what I'm used to seeing. But there's something about them carrying that basket. To me, it seems heavy. Does it seem heavy to you? Mm. Today's Bible story that we are going to talk about, um, it's about Jesus speaking to people who felt as though that they were carrying heavy loads. Okay, in that picture, someone was literally carrying something heavy on their back. Sometimes it can also be a way of saying carrying a heavy load could be feeling the weight of a lot of pressure or stress or questions or concerns that could feel like you're weighted down. And in the story that we are going to learn about today, um, we're going to talk about the time a long time ago. God gave people rules for um, helping them live. Okay, they're like rules for living, and they helped people live in God's loving ways. Over time, other people would add to God's rules to interpret them in a way where they made over 600 rules to live in God's way. It seems like it could feel like that's a lot of rules. Would you think you can remember 600 rules? That would be too much for me to remember. So in this story, um, they were saying that these rules started to weigh people down. And we are going to read a story from the book of Matthew. And as you could see that Matthew is in our New Testament, and it is the first one over here under the category that says Gospels and History. So as I read this story to you today, I am going to hold up another photo. Okay, it's another picture. I'd just like you to take a look at it as we are getting ready to hear the message in our story, because there's going to be a few questions that I'm going to ask about the story and about this picture once we are all finished. So let's sit back and listen to the story based on the book of Matthew. Many years ago, lots of people who loved God and wanted to follow in God's way listened carefully to the teachers of the law and tried to do what they said, but so many rules made it hard to remember them all. Rules, rules, and more rules, sighed the people. Why do we have so many rules? They weigh us down. We are so tired. Jesus was traveling from place to place, teaching and healing. Many people came to hear him. They wanted to learn about they wanted to learn about following in God's ways. They wanted to hear about God's love. They wanted to find peace. We are so confused, they said. We want to follow in God's way, but there are so many rules that we are sure we are missing some. Jesus can see how discouraged and tired they were. So he said to the crowd, "Are you tired? Worn out? Wondering how to find God among all the rules and regulations? Come follow me. My way is simple. I will give you the rest." "What about the rules?" asked the people. "Have you seen what I do?" Jesus asked. "Have you seen how I show God's love?" "Yes," answered the people. "Learn from me," Jesus said. "Be gentle and serve others like I do. Follow my way of love, and you will find peace. That's it. I won't lay lots of heavy rules on you." "We can do that," cried the people. "I know you can," said Jesus. As the years went by, Jesus' followers reminded each other about Jesus' teachings. Eventually, they wrote them down so they would never be forgotten. They wanted all of Jesus' followers to remember that Jesus followed the way of love, not the way of the rules. Cool story, huh? I want to ask a question. I'm going to show this picture again in a second, but I wanted to ask, why did the people come to hear Jesus? They wanted to see and hear the teachings of something that they have heard a long time about, because Jesus would travel from place to place and people would hear of the amazing things that he did and who he was, and they wanted to hear him teach about loving God. And my second question would be, why were the people feeling so tired and discouraged? Do you remember what they said? Rules, rules, and more rules. They felt like they were missing some, and they felt like they couldn't find the way they wanted to follow God because of all of the rules and restrictions. And what did Jesus say? He said, "Learn from me. Follow the way of love, and you will find peace." That's it. Seems like a lot less rules to think of, right? So when I think of rules about, like I had mentioned earlier, all of the new rules we have about the way we live in this time of the coronavirus, I think of it as there may be a lot of rules, but it's really about one rule, right? Being safe. So it might feel like a lot. It might feel like, oh, there's so much to remember, and it's so difficult to be able to have to do all of these new things and change things. But when you think, well, we're safe, kind of makes it feel less weighted, makes you feel like it's not as a heavy burden to think of. I'm going to come back to this picture because in this picture, I see that there are lots of different scenarios, and I see Jesus with his hands out and his arms spread wide open, and I think we've seen that in some pictures in the past. And I want to look closer because I see that there are lots of ways that people are helping each other. Can you find one? I'm going to show you the example of the little girl right here. She's pouring water into a bird bath. She wants to help the birds. They were thirsty, so she said, "Let me help you. I'll give you some water." There is another one right here, right below her, where I see this lovely little girl. She's reading a book to the person next to her who can't see. You can't see the words in those books, so she said, "Let me help you. I can share my eyes with you by reading a story." I want you to look and think, how did Jesus show God's love in this picture? He's showing all the ways you can help each other. Because why? Follow my way of love and you will find peace. And in here you can see that they are following Jesus by showing God's love to others by how they are helping each other. And I know we talk a lot about ways we can help and be able to show our love to each other, and by letting God's light and Jesus' light shine through us. It's a really, really important way to show how to love and how to be loved. And that's a really important thing for everybody. I would love to see if maybe you can show some other siblings or adults in the house this little activity I would like you to try this week. Uh, it is called a labyrinth. Have you ever heard of that word? A labyrinth is another word for a maze. In a maze, is where you start at one point, you work your way through to find the ending. But with this labyrinth, it's slightly different. I'm going to show you on this picture here the labyrinth that you are going to, I'm sorry, it's a little bright right now. It'll adjust in one moment. As I am telling you about this labyrinth, I want you to know this one's different because the end is not at the opposite point of the beginning. Normally you'll see like the finish line here. But in this labyrinth, we call this a finger labyrinth because you're going to use your finger to help follow the path of where the labyrinth and the lines take you. But you know what? They don't take you to the end. They take you to the center. Okay? This is a prayer labyrinth. And a way that you can do this is as you are tracing your path to the center, as you are going that way, you might take it nice and slow. You want to think about the way Jesus shows God's love, okay? So you can just try to be real quiet and calm and slowly take your path and think of all the ways that Jesus shows God's love. And when you reach the center of your labyrinth, I would like you to ask for God's help and pray for God's help for you to help to follow Jesus. And as you go back to the center, now we go backwards and we go back around our labyrinth with our finger. And we quietly and slowly make our path back. And then we are going to think of ways we can show how to follow Jesus this week. How can we show the love and spreading the peace? So recapping, we are going to go up this way. And as we follow the labyrinth to the center, we think about the way Jesus shows God's love. When we reach for the center and we get there, we take a pause. We are going to ask for God's help and pray that we can follow Jesus' way. And as we make our way out of the labyrinth and back to the beginning, we're going to think of the ways that we can do that this week. This is a fun activity that you can have printed out. It will be an attachment for you that you can ask the adults in your house, hey, can I print this real quick? Let's try this together. It's really a nice way to just kind of relax and regroup and find ways to work together. And then finally, in the worship bag that Amy Kim gave us, it had the packets of the children's worship bulletin. I'm going to show you the one that is not colored in, but inside this one, you're going to notice that it says, come to me. This is the worship bulletin for this week. And as I open this up, guess what's in here? Oh, another labyrinth or maze. This one you can do with a pencil and try to find your way. But it's also nice to do it nice and calm, just like we would do our labyrinth, to help try to center ourselves and realize that sometimes in a labyrinth or in a maze, you may come to a little obstacle where you kind of get stuck. But are you going to give up? No. You find your path and you can get through. Okay? And then you can color the beginning of this page. Like I'm going to show you the one that I did. This is how I made mine. And there's 2 or 3 different options of coloring pages on here. And it's another really fun activity to do and ask somebody in the family if they'd like to do it with you. I always love to color, and I think it's way fun to do it with somebody that loves to color too, and you guys could do it together. So as we wrap up our we time today, I want you to think that even though there might feel like a lot of rules, A lot of things to remember. Always know that it's following in the ways of Jesus' love and knowing that the weight of all of these rules and things that may feel like we're weighted down doesn't need to feel that way. If we just follow the love and the peace that Jesus wants us to, it could feel like the weight can get lifted off, and it can really make us feel a lot better about things and realizing that it's all about one thing, not all of the things. So let's gather our hands together. I'm going to use my prayer hands this way. As I do my closing prayer, I'd like you to bow your head and repeat after me. God of stories, thank you for your stories that help us discover more about you and what it means to live in Jesus' ways. Amen. I hope you have a lovely weekend, and I look forward to spending some more we time with you real soon. Take care, everybody.